Well, I first met Chris in London, and I was organising a demonstration in London, and Chris and I got together, sealed the deal between the sheets, as they say, and I lived in this gay squat, basically, and then sort of moved on, and then Chris said, how would you like to come and live with me in Nottingham? I thought, as they say in Nottingham, It's like I hurriedly packed my bags before he changed his mind and came to Nottingham and been in this street ever since, in different houses. Chris was like, he was a good old socialist working class gay man from Nottingham, no, from London. He was very focused, very studious, and I was the scatty one. He made a film about my 50th birthday, and I didn't know they were going to be making a film. He just said, we've just got to go down to the swimming pool. I said, don't worry, we've got to take a couple of chairs down there. So I went down there. And then all these people, he had been arranging in the background my 50th birthday party for about over 6 months. I knew nothing about it. And there were people from all parts of the country there. And that was just so amazing.
I met Chris and Richard, I don't know how many years ago, but I've so many fond memories of them both. I found him a very inspiring person. You know, he was very dedicated to his principles, and he was he was a learned person, you know, and a very political person. And I admired him for that because, I mean, I like to think I'm a political and principled person, but I don't get as involved in direct action as he used to do. He was a very good friend, a good, loyal and precious friend.
Yes, Chris, you know, you'd look at him and think, he's rather serious, but my goodness.
He spoke out for the underdogs, didn't he?
He did.
He dressed up as Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
This is him when the Pope came to Britain.
Oh yes, the Pope.
And he made himself this outfit.
Yeah.
And dressed up as a cardinal and went right down to welcome the Pope. And he had a sign saying "Up the Pope," and it had a middle finger up like that, didn't it? I've got the picture of him standing out there. That's when he's having it put on his face.
Oh. Yeah, he'd get on the bus and... yeah. Definitely a one-off.
Yeah, he was a great and awesome person, which is a good part of my life. And I know Chris nearly 10 years with Richie, and they were a big part of my life because I come from Pakistan and I was a refugee and asylum in this country, so I had been through terrible journey which I don't have time to explain everything. But Richie and Chris, they've been most helpful person in my life in the UK. So I really appreciate Richie and Christopher both. Thank you.
I first met Chris when I first came to Nottingham to teach here. we met at a fantastic social group, a gay social group that used to meet actually just round the corner from here, called Nogsog, which was Nottingham Gay Social Group. He was really kind. He was creative as well, and I remember in the early 80s, I was a knitter and crocheter, and Chris was actually a sewer, so he sewed clothes. He actually taught me how to make a pair of trousers with fantastic seams. I remember fantastic instructions on how to make a perfect fly, which was brilliant. And then I would be crocheting, knitting quite casually with him. Very great. So Chris was just really creative. My last memories of Chris were, I was one of a few people that maybe for the last 2 years would go round regularly, perhaps once every fortnight, to just be with him in the house and just do odd jobs and sit and talk and just try and lift him, because it was so hard for him. And we just sat and I knitted and sometimes pulled bits out, and as we were both creative, we just relaxed, and it was just such a lovely time.
I'm just really proud and honoured. I'll do anything for them, because I know that what they've done for other people, and particularly with Richard, now he's older and he's lost Chris, it's really important that people look out for him. Because at one point, later on in his life, he was a social worker, and he was going and looking at, going in and visiting elders. And he's in a similar position now where he needs support and help. And he did that for other people. And often, a lot of those people were very anti-gay. And he had to put up with all of that,
Another A, if I may. It's going to be a long day. We're still on the A's. Application, because Chris would never give up. He was extraordinarily committed to whatever it was he pursued. A humorous example, of course, is that some of you will remember his Mrs. Thatcher costume, which he used to wear to terrorise people at various events. And there's the mascot.
That looks like the Scream.
At an event a few years back in Lenton, the Michaelmas Fair, he appeared there, and I think he had a Mrs. May abduction, didn't he? He had a mask in front of the Mrs. Thatcher.
Maggie, May.
So, were he with us today, I'm sure now he would be busy at home making a picture perhaps of Miss Truss to put out so he could go around and terrorise us even further.
Working with Chris was extraordinary, because he was a very determined person, very patient person. Chris is a very quiet person, and people, I think, always saw him as in the relationship with his partner Richard as the quiet one, the one in the background, but actually he was extraordinarily dynamic, and he had an extraordinary sense of humour, really amazing. The City Council sauna at Sneinton Marketplace was sometimes frequented by gay men. And in the sauna there were 3 rooms, an outer one, a middle one and an inner one. And the inner one had only a door to it, no windows or no spaces, so no one could see what was going on inside this particular room. Rumour had it that certain gay or bisexual men were enjoying themselves in there in ways which were not appropriate to City Council, how should we put it, regulations. So one day the City Council had decided to make a window, and they demolished they took out some of the bricks and made a window from this inner sauna room so that anyone in outer rooms could see into it. Chris used to go there occasionally, and he was outraged by this, and he showed his outrage in the most creative way by taking with him a pair of net curtains and a little vase of plastic flowers, which he managed to smuggle in, I don't know how, not wearing very much, smuggled into the inner sauna, set up the neck curtains with a wonderful ruched way on either side, placed the little plastic vase of flowers so it looked like a little cottage window. And I think it was a day or so before the city council, before the people who worked at the baths took it down. But it was Chris's unique way of actually making his point. It's very funny.
That's Richard with that moustache. Richard and Chris. There's Richard, there's Chris. 44 years they were together. Rainbow flags. More rainbow flags. We're not short of flags. It was going to be his birthday on the 3rd of October.
Yes.
And the consultant said, oh, you're allowed 6 people in. So we all masked up and we had the big community space. We
Yes.
didn't tell Chris, it was a surprise, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And we had a guy pretending to be a magistrate, and we called him in as if it was a court, and I was wearing the clerk of the court outfit.
Yes, you were.
And we charged him with several misdemeanours, which he pleaded guilty to all of them, like impersonating a member of parliament, a prime minister, and insulting the Pope, blasphemy, which he pleaded guilty to, and what else was the other one? I forget
Can't
now.
remember that.
Anyway, we tried
Yes.
him, and he had an absolutely fantastic birthday.
He loved it.
I miss him. I miss him very much. That on this plane of existence, there won't be any more conversations with Chris such as we're having. But yes, so it's all treasured memories.
Chris's contribution to history, local history and our understanding. I'm from the Women's History Group, and what we really liked is working with Chris, because he didn't come and sort of say, oh, what do you know about things, what can you tell me? He went and did the research, so his books are inclusive. He found so many women chartists that we'd not found.
The LGBT archive has been shifted to the Sparrow's Nest. What's this? Sorted film and media, gay. Stack of these. This one.
I don't know, I've got about 20 of those.
Gay Sock. What was Gay Sock?
Gay Society.
Where? Where were they based?
Can't remember. Well, I mean, they were based in all sorts of places. It was a common name for, like the Eastbourne Gay Sock, Nottingham Gay Sock.
Yeah, so what decade do you think that was? What was it? They're different. They're all different. Oh, look, there's some women ones here as well.
Don't be alarmed. I didn't realise that.
I used to go to the gym every week, and often I'd come back from Nottingham on the bus and phone Richie and say, can I drop in for a cup of tea? And always he'd say yes. And one day I went round there and it was him and Chris sitting at the table as they used to. Richie on his end and Chris at the other end. And I must have arrived at an awkward time because they were having a bit of a tiff. Nothing serious, but they were just bickering like hell at each other. So I said, come on boys, stop this please. And it was such an affectionate moment when Richie went round behind Chris and gave him that hug. I thought, yes, they are in love with each other.
If you met Chris for the first time, he would have this very reserved outward demeanor, but underneath there is all this joyous passion, and it came out in very different ways. But one thing that she remembers is that whenever he kind of employed his dry sense of humor, how there's this very particular way his lips would slightly curl upwards, and there is this kind of very boyish sweet little twinkle in his eye, and that's something that she remembered and just texted in so we can share it here as well.
He's very persistent, very reliable, and he was gifted, really, very talented. I suppose it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say he was a real Renaissance man. He didn't just talk, you know, he walked the talk. He lived as he would think. There was no hypocrisy there. And as I say, he wasn't self-conscious about it. He just got on with it. So I'd admired him and almost envied him that he was so gifted. I feel honoured that I've known him, and that's the cause of all of us being here today, is Chris. And I think that's a great recommendation, because his whole life was involved in what's called he was devoted to the cooperative movement. So if we look around us and we see how many people have turned up today, that's, to me, the best recommendation you could say, that it was an honour to know Chris.
Chris was had a transformational effect on my life. And I think, why did he stick with me? But I think opposites sometimes attract. I never thought I'd end up as a partner of somebody. I thought I'd be a lonely gay man. So that fortunately didn't happen. And he put up with me for 44 years. I think it's 44. And it's been very hard since he's died, because I've spent a lot of time grieving and have to move on and see it as part of my life, a very important part of my life. So here we've been on Devonshire Prom all these years, and you know, I sometimes sit in the park on a nice day and I'll look at the 3 houses I owned, or I owned 2, and my mum had the 3rd one. I think, wow, it's part of my history, you know.